It is the second half of the month of Fateska, the third month of the year. In Marjura, on Klostanoba, Baru Saulani and his fire-tongue inquisitors are stretched thin by their attempts to find a way to reach the source of the flow of power in Marjura and search for any signs of the resurrection of some ancient fleet on the coast. Being stretched thin, they begin to actively recruit among the refugees for guides and new members. But on the Fakal Plains, many Huali leaders have been very reluctant to work with outsiders, fiercely guarding their independence. That resistance is considerably weakened when the purpur tattoo symbolist cannibals from Kargum eat many of them, after having tattooed them and hung their skins as banners in the wind to send a message. In Nostril, the people of the Old Blood have gathered many followers who are malcontent with the Prince of Folda's lack of confrontation with the Trakorian Empire. Now those nobles start working the officials and religious dignitaries of the province to slowly but surely build support. It turns out that at least some locals are frustrated to see their taxes go to faraway Tresilva and are sympathetic to someone who would stand up for their interests more firmly. In Moscoria, Manzonla himself arrives when the Ransardian raiders threaten to sack the city of Tribra. The city council is mightily impressed by his negotiating skills when he managed to make them go away by calling the curse of Shamash against anyone who would violate the city. However, later during the night, the mayor and various lofty people promise Manzonla their eternal friendship, without knowing that Manzonla has in fact bribed the Ransardians to go away. Meanwhile, Erik Granström is touring the province of Moscoria together with his academic allies. In Faoki and Faramarul, they hold seminars throwing doubts over the heritage of the Prince of Folda, questioning if he is really the rightful heir of the Clavikian Empire. They also suggest that an oligarchy of nobles might be the best way of reviving that old state. This neo-Clavikian idea is gaining traction among some influential power holders. There are also many reports from farmers and Moscorian nobles about how the Killer Crane Cavalry has been training more cranes and riders. In Lasimos, the siege troops of Galagormgald want to celebrate their great victory over Edvil Hustler and commission brand new clothes from Engi's Purpur Emporium. The clothes are really impressive, and soon nobles and other dignitaries take up these latest fashions. As they go to get outfitted, they also find themselves making a lot of promises to the powerful merchant house. In Albaruncia, in the Kishat, Hustler's death means finally some peace and quiet for the priests of Shamash. The priests use this lull to strengthen their own ranks with fresh recruits and to take collections from the people, continuously invoking the words of the Voxranzina to convince their followers that their purpose has divine sanction. The priestess is strengthened. In the city of Navumbra, there was turmoil today as various political powers engaged in a heated cold war with each other. Men and women died by the droves in the alleyways, dark corners, and bars across the city. It seemed apparent that the infiltrators in the region were fighting to decide which of them would become second in command to Galagormgald himself. After 2 weeks of blood, betrayal, and calculated violence, the city finally stood still. Whatever quiet war had been raging through the streets seemed to be over, and a second in command was decided. A defense agreement was reached this season between the Galagormgaldian navy and the city of Branila. In the event of an attack, the two forces pledged to unite their forces. In exchange, Galagormgald's admiral, Forlong, was elected to an advisory position in the Branilian navy. At the same time, Manzonla's mercenary captains saw an opportunity in the wake of this treaty. Tensions have gone down, which meant unemployment for many private contractors, and Manzonla's captain quickly employs them to serve the Kishat instead. In Ardahals, new sphere investments in Gazolul opened doors that would otherwise have remained closed to foreigners. At the same time, what goes for nobility in rural elder halls willingly subject themselves to slapping by perfumed kerchiefs and ritual scarring by tip of a rapier, as Tremeldan nobles show them what's good in life. The ranks of duellants swell, to not an inconsiderable degree, by assimilating a great number of half-wild rangers and other outdwellers from the Abraloon forest, showing up in droves with big, slow smiles on their broad faces as they happily mark an X on the contract to join the circus. The Fremlin Plains have seen a lot of activity from the merchant navy under the Prince of Folda, which has traded and gained in riches. The clairvoyant peace orcs have dedicated themselves to meditation and seeking out ways to dig deeper into the mysteries of the future, increasing their understanding of the mysteries of this world. In Karamak, while the New Sphere maintains its control over Melsa, powerful New Sphere allies force out unfriendly contacts and allies from doing business in the community. These people have friends at court, but not even the most impressive prancing can stop the purge. Soon every person loyal to Timbolt Gomba has been ostracized or even arrested. In Bertalva, everyone loves children. None more than jolly old slave master Drake. He pushes his 330 pounds of conservative flesh around the markets, gathering them up by handing out sweets and promising to brand their parents as killjoys. The youngsters are quickly shackled and prized. Any above 10 years old are handed a rusty knife and forcibly inducted into the Workers' Defense Force, an alternate name for the youth section of the local gladiatorial ring. Kids get to defend themselves against various wild creatures and sometimes their own recently branded parents. Since they didn't give their progeny up voluntarily, parents have obviously broken some law, so are routinely rounded up and sent into the games. Fun for the whole family. Early in the wee hours of the Rat's Watch, on the 21st of Fateska, Borgo da Privavi slept soundly in his home when a group of thugs with a thick Rungli accent, led by a lesser Paratorian noble serving the New Sphere, stormed in. Borgo has never been seen again, and the house was set on fire. The crackdowns in the province continued, with less frequency but more precision. When they did happen, they did, however, strike swiftly and with greater violence. In their wake, a war in frightful silence followed. There is now widespread order and peace, but celebrations are few and muted. Trade is conducted with excessive honesty, and thus far from flourishing. You never know who will come for next. At the end of the month, the Digitalonga is firmly in control of the province. The last of those loyal to the Alicella family are gone at last. Meanwhile, the generally desolate plains of Newmark have been full of tents and camp wagons lately. Some gaudy and bright, most drab and boring. Merchants are peddling their worthless trinkets, the odd marine soldier or noble strutting about, taking offence at everything and nothing, agents skulking behind every tent flap, and a number of flustered revolutionaries running about, handing out pamphlets and holding speeches. The clueless local populace, few as they were, waddle about in the midst of all this, gaping at all the sights. Nobody expects the Grummian Inquisition, but in actuality many are simply waiting for a dagger in their back, as their presence is an open secret. Lately, though, there have been whispers of a tepid yet welcome wind blowing over Newmark. The prejudices and practices of yesteryear might yet rise up, and throw everyone back at least 100 years. Goodness gracious! The not quite so good old days may still come again. Duke Tremelda has cast his greedy eyes on the province, and any and all who was a mere whiner yesterday may suddenly see themselves as a speaker for the party line tomorrow. Familiar repressiveness and social tyranny would seem like a relief in these uncertain times. After all, a known evil is better than 10 new horrors. In the capital, the thriving heart of Trakoria beats on. It often seems that too many projects have been left unattended by the defaults, as there were ever more items to draw the attention of those in power. Thankfully, with the efforts of the gifted and exceptionally trained engineers of Duke Belasiria, we can see many public works not merely kept up as they had been, but finely tuned and improved, making life even more full for all those who spend time in the capital. The work is very popular among the commoners, who soon turn to the engineers for all sorts of problems. The Chronolob maintenance crew has also gained influence by making eerily accurate predictions. Likewise, the Innocentians have come back. Those who escaped the earlier purges return to their charity houses slowly but surely, taking up their good works as though nothing had happened before. The poor are given shelter and food, medicines are doled out to those with the greatest need, and lessons are taught on how to bear one's suffering with the grace of gods. All of this, of course, condemned by the Church of Gastik. Malusa has also seen a lot of activity. A massive crackdown on tax evasion masked the true purpose of the Duke's private army in the city, elimination of rival powers in his home. The first news that betrayed the true purpose was the arrest of a high-level servant in the palace for theft in the skimming of tax monies. However, it was leaked by another source that the person arrested never had any access. Within days, multiple arrests were made, guided by the intelligence from the Digitalonga. Most were mutilated by the removal of the hand or finger for theft, but at least 3 were executed on the orders of the Duke himself, rather than the magistrate who was also present. As the guilty parties are led away, 2 women watch from the shadows, with smiles on their faces. They knew this crackdown was coming, and the evidence they planted with the innocent men diverted attention from them just in the nick of time. No agent loyal to Duke Komba ended up in Duke Kamesti's sweep this time. Instead, the agents preyed on the fear and the anger created among many officials over the obvious trumped-up charges against innocent people. If these people can become the targets for doing nothing, then who is safe? Some highly placed people pledged their loyalty to the House of Goomba, desperate for protection. Meanwhile, Commodore Kaldor lined up the necessary pockets to establish himself in the Solvolium trade. In Hiltre and Hoidar, the veteran priests of the Absolva have searched for the truth about the murder of the Pietro Pachalba of the Rancine order, and have recruited any Rancine monks and devout souls among the refugee population capable of aiding in their search and willing to join them in this fight for the future of Trakoria. In Rule, in the interest of promoting prosperity, a grand trade festival has been organized. Along with countless new booths filled with strange and exciting merchandise, entertainment of all sorts is arranged to draw the folk of Rule to the impromptu tent city that is built. Moving on to Transmira, news from Kark. A new pack of wolven have been spotted moving south from Rung into the Wolferwood, seemingly followed by an increased activity among the packs. Nobody really seems to know what's going on though, but then who even cares what those weird basemen do anyway? Also a new sect has arrived into Vumbra. People wearing strips of purple to various degrees, from simple bracelet to full toga, for the most enlightened of the sect members, preach the purity of the purest color, the purpur, throughout the city. Many join, for the sooty city definitely lacks color. Fundibera's followers also bring good news from Rung. She is besting the Manapur, a terrible beast. This news brings joy to the Kark citizens and trust for the resident magic user. A group of potion makers have set up shop in Kark, offering low-cost samples to the navy and slave owners alike. The cost of healing potions proves to be more cost-effective than buying new slaves to replace those who are injured and are of no use anymore. Navy personnel find that the occasional potions to enhance their wakefulness or abilities useful in the right circumstances. The potion makers steadily grow their clientele. But in Rung, Kaldor has started recruiting freedom fighters from among the Rungli, with promises of piracy against the old noble families. When many young ones join, their families feel better about having strong relations with the Commodore. Fundibera has used her magic to create the illusion that she's battling the beasts, and the rituals she's taught her children are making them more and more trusting and thankful for their help. They feel so grateful that they offer up what they can to her, their new protector. And that concludes the Trakorian news from this 2-week period.